Jefferson treasured his books and amassed 3 sizable libraries in his lifetime. He began assembling his first library, which grew to 200 volumes, in his youth. It included books inherited from his father and left to him by George Wythe, but was destroyed when his Shadwell home burned in a 1770 fire. His second library, however, replenished the first. It grew to 1,250 titles by 1773, and to nearly 6,500 volumes by 1814. Jefferson organized his wide variety of books into 3 broad categories corresponding with elements of the human mind: memory, reason, and imagination. After the British destroyed the Library of Congress in the August 1814 burning of Washington, Jefferson sold his second library to the U.S. government for $23,950, hoping to help jumpstart the Library of Congress's collection and rebuilding. Jefferson used a portion of the proceeds to pay off some of his large debt, remitting $10,500 to William Short and $4,870 to John Barnes of Georgetown. However, Jefferson soon resumed collecting what amounted to his third personal library, writing to John Adams, "I cannot live without books." He began to construct his third library with many of his personal favorite books. By the time of his death a decade later, the library had grown to nearly 2,000 volumes. Jefferson was admitted to the Virginia bar in 1767, and lived with his mother at Shadwell. He represented Albemarle County as a delegate in the Virginia House of Burgesses from 1769 until 1775. He pursued reforms to slavery, including writing and sponsoring legislation in 1769 to strip power away from the royal governor and courts, instead providing masters of slaves with the discretion to emancipate them. Jefferson persuaded his cousin Richard Bland to spearhead the legislation's passage, but it faced strong opposition in a state whose economy was largely agrarian. Jefferson also took 7 cases of freedom-seeking slaves and waived his fee for one he claimed should be freed before the minimum statutory age for emancipation. Jefferson invoked natural law, arguing, "Everyone comes into the world with a right to his own person and using it at his own will. This is what is called personal liberty, and is given him by the author of nature, because it is necessary for his own sustenance." The judge cut him off and ruled against his client. As a consolation, Jefferson gave his client some money, which was conceivably used to aid his escape shortly thereafter. However, Jefferson's underlying intellectual argument that all people were entitled by their Creator to what he labeled a natural right to liberty is one he would later incorporate as he set about authoring the Declaration of Independence. He also took on 68 cases for the General Court of Virginia in 1767, in addition to 3 notable cases: Howell v. Netherland, 1770, Bowling v. Bowling, 1771, and Blair v. Blair, 1772. The British Parliament responding by passing the Intolerable Acts in 1774, and Jefferson wrote a resolution calling for a day of fasting and prayer, in protest, and a boycott of all British goods. Jefferson's resolution was later expanded into a summary view of the rights of British America, in which he argued that people have the right to govern themselves. In 1768, Jefferson began constructing his primary residence, Monticello, whose name in Italian means little mountain, on a hilltop overlooking his 5,000-acre, 20 square kilometers, 7.8 square miles, plantation. He spent most of his adult life designing Monticello as architect and was quoted as saying, "Architecture is my delight, and putting up, and pulling down, one of my favorite amusements." Construction was done mostly by local masons and carpenters, assisted by Jefferson's slaves. He moved into the South Pavilion in 1770. Turning Monticello into a neoclassical masterpiece in the Palladian style was his perennial project.